Hey everyone, welcome to Darkling Alley. Jane Tempest here. In this video, we're going to give our thoughts on 3 preview trailers for Alan Wake 2. So sit back, relax with some freshly percolated coffee, and let's get started. We recently announced on Twitter, or X, that we've made the decision not to view any more previews for Alan Wake 2. The reason is simple. Although we create content, we are first and foremost fans of both Alan Wake and Control, now aka the Remedy Connected Universe. For us, going in with too much knowledge isn't the experience we want to have. Videos, and most especially, articles from those who have played, in some cases up to 3 hours of Alan Wake 2 and live to tell about it, often reveal more than we want to see or know. So for those of you in the same boat as us, having reached your limit with spoilers and previews, you'll likely enjoy our video lineup for this month. We have 2 very special videos coming up for both titles that you won't want to miss. One is an analysis of Alan Wake's writing, as well as another video called Who Do You Trust?, in which we take a closer look at the secondary characters in Control. And for those of you that don't give a damn about spoilers, and are happy basking in all of the Alan Wake and Remedy Connected Universe content available, we will discuss and give our opinions about what we saw prior to our decision to stop watching previews. If you didn't watch any of the previews, and don't want any knowledge at all about what we will or might see in Alan Wake 2, now is the time to click away and check out one of the many videos we have on both titles released prior to the Alan Wake 2 previews.
Today, we're not going to focus on every Easter egg or try and decipher the graffiti and all of the environmental details. Most fans have already been doing that for weeks. However, we will bring up some fun facts that might help clue us in on what Alan and, very likely, his evil double have been up to for the past 13 years.
And you cannot miss the eye candy.
No.
It's hard not to marvel at the graphics. Remedy really did outdo themselves this time. They're absolutely stunning. And it's almost hard to tell between the gameplay and the live-action cinematics.
No. You mean it's hard to tell fiction from reality?
Not in this game,
No
Alan Wake.
way. No, that's not supposed to happen.
No, not at all.
But we're glad it does, because it's going to make this game good.
That's right.
It's what made the last game good.
Mhm.
So, anyway, moving on. It's hard not to notice all of the Alex Casey posters and billboards plastered on almost everything, advertising new movies that we can only assume may have been born from stories that Alan has written over the years, likely as attempts to escape the dark place.
Just wanted to point this out really quick. We thought this was important. It says, "No closing the door on past sins, and you may not be the only you out there."
Oh, what sounds important about that? I'm kidding. We know why that sounds important and interesting, and we're ready to find out. So hurry up, October 27th, and get here.
Yeah, I could not get here too soon.
No. While scanning Alan's Dark Place version of New York, I realized something that could be somewhat of a disadvantage to him. I wasn't seeing much of Alan. There's a ridiculous amount of graffiti and what seems to be messages for him, but I had to stop and ask myself, how much of this, if any, was done by our playable character? We know from American Nightmare and The Visions that he had resorted to leaving notes for himself to remind him of who he is, where he is, and what he's trying to accomplish. However, in AWE, it suggested that this method may not be working for him.
I've forgotten again. I had a plan. I know it. I've forgotten.
Between the hotline calls and the scenes from the Ocean View Motel, I was left feeling that his writing was possibly being tampered with, and probably had been for a long time. I can't imagine that Alan would write into reality a situation in which Alice would be terrorized to the point where she'd have to seek help from the FBC. But that's another story for another time. In the previews of Alan's gameplay, there was one message that nagged at me. Don't write. And I suppose we won't find out for sure until October 27th if this is a message or a warning to him from someone else, or if it's a message that he left for himself. It may seem counterproductive to stop writing, but what if his writing is actually making things worse, or at the very least, making it easy for someone or something to come along and change things just enough to hinder his efforts to escape? I had mentioned that the Dark Place version of New York might be a disadvantage to him because, if you notice, there isn't much of anything helpful to him. It's not as fleshed out as maybe it could be or even should be. A good example would be all of the liquor stores. It was implied in the first game that alcohol is one of the reasons he's here in the first place. So why would he have something that played a part in him being damned to this abyss? I can't help but feel, once again, that his writing is being tampered with, or at the very least, he's writing for the wrong character. Casey, for example. There doesn't seem to be many places where Alan can go that would be helpful to him. This is his dark place, and from what we've seen in the previews, it doesn't appear that he's claimed it yet. In fact, it looks more like someone else has overrun the place. Of course, these are just some of our theories based on what we've seen in the previews, but since we stopped watching them, this will likely be the only video we make where we get into any level of theory crafting in regards to Alan Wake 2.
It's been verified that Alan Wake 2 is bringing with it some treasures from the first game that most fans really enjoyed and will be happy to see again. One of those things being a new season of
Night Springs! Yay!
New season coming soon.
Yes.
Also, we're super stoked for the return of the old gods of Asgard.
Oh yeah. That's gonna be fun.
That is. I'm excited to see them again.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's live action, right?
That's right.
That's gonna be fun to see.
That will. In this sequel, players are treated to what are called payphones. They're actually pretty easy to use and serve as a great way for Alan to receive information from outside sources. Though we don't know if these sources are reliable or who they even are. In this version of reality, two men appear to be investigating something.
It's bad luck to be on this case. The cult can get you anywhere with that black magic shit. Let the day shift handle it. What happened, anyway?
Some Fed came looking for the cult, but it was a trap. A satanic blood sacrifice.
Anyone who gets involved with the cult, they're next. I heard their leader is this famous writer, Alan Wake. Their unholy motherfucking messiah.
Sounds like a load of bull.
It seems as though Alan may have visions, possibly linked to what's happening in Bright Falls with the Cult of the Tree, which leads us to one of our biggest questions that we cannot wait for an answer to. If Nightingale was touched by the Dark Presence, why would the cult want him? Do they hunt those who have been touched or taken by the Dark Presence? Or is there another reason why they would kill him, but keep his heart?
Well, first of all, he's an asshole, so
Yeah,
maybe that's why.
He is kind of a
Okay, maybe that was kind of mean, but Nightingale, we never, he's not likable, so whatever. We'll see what happens.
In this scene, Alan wakes up in a green room, or someplace similar. He's a guest on a late-night talk show called In Between with Mr. Dorr, and it's made clear that he's a repeat guest. There are several pictures of him in this room, and we can't help but wonder if Alan wrote them into his existence in the dark place so that he can recognize the situation and possibly even remind himself who he is each time he ends up there. Upon Alan's reveal, he is greeted not only by Mr. Dorr, but the house band, the Old Gods of Asgard.
Mr. Dorr holds a finished and what looks to be a published copy of Departure, the cult classic psychological thriller, and makes a comment about how everyone has been waiting for a sequel. Alan looks mildly confused, or is maybe just having a hard time adjusting to the situation. But let's take a look at his reaction when Mr. Dorr reveals a copy of Alan's new book, Initiation.
Initiation hits the shelves tomorrow.
What?
That's exactly what every reader will be asking.
Alan doesn't just appear confused, but also a bit concerned, and the preview abruptly cuts off at this point. There's something rather interesting about the cover art for Initiation that we noticed almost immediately. If you flip the book upside down, we can see what appears to be Alan's apartment building, the Parliament Tower, when comparing it with the apartment logo from the first game. In the logo, there is one large owl perched on top of a tall building, with two smaller owls, one on each side. On the book, there are 3 identical buildings, one large version and 2 smaller versions, also one on each side. This was an exciting find, and we were content enough with it. However, an article was published by someone who had played some of the game and revealed how the building came to be in Part 2. This is when we began to consider discontinuing reading and watching any future content on Alan Wake 2. So, I don't know about you, but my first impression about Mr. Dorr is that he's not just a late night talk show host, he's got some type of responsibilities. He's in charge of something there in the dark place or this abyss type of place. So it kind of reminds me of a time loop thing. Anytime something happens over and over again, that's what I think of.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
It's actually, I think it's been verified. Like I said, we stopped watching previews and things like that. But I think it was verified in an interview with Sam Lake that Mr. Door is not all what he seems to be. And that's the impression that I got from the beginning. So we'll see. I don't know if it's malevolent, benevolent, or maybe a little bit of both. Like I said, I think he's someone with a job to do.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong, and that's fine. I just want to play the game.
Yeah, I think he might have a little bit of both. I think one instance is where he does show a little bit of benevolence is when Dylan is referring to him and him wanting to take the hiss to different places, and Mr. Door didn't think that that was a good idea.
Yes. So at least he has common sense.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think that he has a role, a job.
The previews have also given us a peek into what we can expect when it comes to gameplay mechanics. But one of the most interesting options players will have, and the one we're most excited for, is the ability to rewrite reality.
The subway car had become a burnt husk. I could get through it now.
Which brings us to probably one of the most interesting examples, which is what Alan, or the player, does to get past a subway wreck in order to progress. If you've played AWE, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome aboard the Eagle Limited bound for Chicago.
A popular opinion is that this burned husk is the Eagle Limited, which is exactly what came to our minds as well, due to how the circumstances played out.
Oh my God! Fire! Fire! Everyone, stay in your seat! In your seat! Nothing to sir! Sit down! Everyone, hold on!
None of this was real. It was all real.
In this section of the game, reality is rewritten in a way that unfortunately means that subway cars not only crashed, but also caught fire, resulting in dozens of people being burned alive. But this is how Alan is able to get to the other side of the subway cars, at least in the preview anyway. We may have other choices in the game that the previews don't show. We've heard from many people that the Torchbearer's version of reality may in fact be the Eagle Limited, but we're not entirely convinced that's the case just yet. The Eagle Limited AWE houses a single train car, a Vista Dome dining car, similar to what you'd see on a passenger train, such as an Amtrak, and if you pay attention to how it sounds, that chugga chugga indicates that it's most likely a steam train. There are only a handful of steam trains in the US that still operate, usually as a tourist activity. They were almost entirely phased out by the 80s. The Eagle Limited AWE was recorded as having occurred in 2015, so the likelihood that Alan encounters a passenger train, such as the Eagle Limited, especially in a subway tunnel, is pretty low. However, on ground level, there is a train car on the platform, which looks as though it could be the car from the Eagle Limited, but when comparing it to the Eagle Limited, they don't match. The only conclusion that we're able to draw when it comes to why the circumstances between the Eagle Limited and the subway cars are so similar was that Alan may have had some bit of knowledge, possibly an idea that came to him from reality when the Eagle Limited crashed in Bloomington, Illinois in 2015, which hopefully means that we could learn about what Alan has been up to all these years, what he's tried to do to get out of the dark place, how much of reality he is aware of, altered, and most importantly, if he was involved in creating some of the AWEs that took place after 2010. We're not sure how time works in Alan Wake 2. There are clocks this time, and they do have hands. However, the times are different, and we're not sure what the times correlate to, but we can't wait to find out. Now, moving on to Saga Anderson. Remedy did such a good job with the environment in Saga's portion for the Bright Falls/water area here in the Great Pacific Northwest. We're thinking that playing the game will feel like we're just stepping out right into our backyard.
For sure. It's great, you guys. Like the last one, I have to say, looks a little bit more like Oregon, where Crater Lake is.
Yeah.
But this game, it's like full Washington State.
Yeah, Remedy
It's awesome.
is spot on. And they had even mentioned that the trees in the game are actual trees from Washington State.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool.
Totally. In this preview for a section of the game called Local Girl, we can see that Saga Anderson has a bandage on her head. It looks like she has a head injury similar to Alan in the first game. And that concerns me a little bit. I don't know yet. We don't know how she got this injury, how severe it was. if she passed out, blacked out, had any memory loss. If that's the case, then it could make her an unreliable character.
Maybe she got in a car wreck.
Could have been. It could be something minor. But you know what? If it's not, if she did black out or if she did have some memory loss, then what we're going to experience is Alan Wake 1 with her in a way all over again. So that's going to be interesting to find out. Also, what we noticed about Saga Anderson, and I don't know if this is the same thing with Alan, is that she is a user.
That's right.
She's got painkillers. And that's something that was a problem for Alan as well, is that he drank alcohol a lot, used a lot of painkillers, and, you know, it was problematic. So I don't know if this is just one of the things that the game gives to help deal with damage and I guess the pain that comes with it, or if it means something a little bit more than that. Guess we'll have to wait and find out. Also in this preview, we get to see Ahti, a familiar face. Ahti, of course, singing, his favorite pastime. And what's interesting about this part is that there's an old lady sitting in the audience, and she's knitting. Now, we've gotten the image and the concept art before of an old woman that has yarn and it looks like she's knitting. And then in one of the previews for Alan Wake 2, we see what looks like possibly that same lady, and she's kind of turned into a monster. And these are apparently all residents from the Valhalla nursing home. Now, we don't get to see Tor and Odin here. They are, of course, missing again, is what the driver tells us. But it seems as though we might get to visit.
That'd be cool.
So we've got the Valhalla nursing home. This is in Watery, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what happens with that.
And here Saga meets the brothers that apparently need no introduction, the Koskalas. And we noticed that they call the Bright Falls newspaper the Herald instead of the Record. Thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And why would Bright Falls have more than one paper? It's always been the Record. So.
And upon meeting them, they seem nice enough, but there's something slightly off about them.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, don't really know if we can trust them or not, so we'll see. The brothers speak to her as if they've known her for years. In fact, most of the people she meets in Watery do. But Jaakko makes somewhat of a strange comment. He says to Saga that it must be hard coming back to where her and her little girl lived. But why would it be hard? Did something bad happen there? Saga doesn't question what he means, and neither brother makes any further comments about it. With the exception of Jaakko somewhat praising her for wanting to see her trailer, almost as if she's doing something that might be upsetting or difficult. It's an awkward interaction, but it seems clear that the brothers will likely play a key role in her section of the game. When Saga enters the percolator ride, we counted 28 shots to take down one Taken. We're not talking about coffee here. That would be way too easy to come by.
28 shots in your espresso or whatever. 28 shots of espresso in your, I don't know, in your morning coffee.
But yeah, it looks like we'll definitely need to carefully manage our inventory.
Definitely. 28 shots, that's
that's a lot.
It's like you've got to burn off the darkness. Okay, so that's your flashlight, right? And then you have to shoot and shoot until its clothes come off. I wonder how that's going to work for the women Taken. Because you guys, yes, there are women Taken this time.
That's right. So in this Alex Casey preview, Casey confronts Alan in an alley. Alan seems to believe he's met him on the door show, but has suggested that this might be a different version of Casey.
Yeah, I think that maybe the actor for that Alex Casey movies.
Yeah.
Because Alan is really cool about, he's like, hey, didn't I meet you on the show? He's not like startled by it or disturbed by it or whatever, so.
Until he starts talking crazy and reciting the manuscript in his mind.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. It's like he's thinking about the manuscript pages that he's possibly read already. And then he starts questioning Alan and pulls a gun on him, or at least starts to pull a gun on him. And then they hear some kind of commotion coming from around the corner. Something happens that we don't get to see, but Alan refers to this as like an echo of the Alex Casey stories. We noticed something else really cool. All the green.
That's right, yeah.
So if you remember on Control, there's the episode of America Overnight where a woman named Peggy calls in and she's talking about a situation with her husband being somewhat obsessed with this salt lamp that she got.
He says it needs to stay on no matter what. Last night, I woke up at 3 a.m. He wasn't in bed. I found him in the living room, staring at the lamp. He was smiling. His eyes were open, but I thought he might be sleepwalking, so I shook him. He just kept smiling at the light. Then, he started to speak. He said, every time a reflection reflects itself, it gets a little greener.
I've read that.
And then he turned to me. He was still smiling, eyes open. My husband's eyes are brown, almost black. But the eyes of the man in the living room last night, his eyes were green.
Sounds just like Decatur. Get everything you can out of her, then call HQ. Peggy, I'm so sorry to cut you off there, but we need to go to commercial. I'd like you to stay on the line, though. My producer, Karen, needs a little more information. Okay?
If you've ever heard of infinity mirrors, you'll know exactly what that's like. As a matter of fact, in one of the flashes for Visions or whatever on AWE, they show what looks like an infinity mirror, and you can see how it looks greener.
Yeah.
The further you look down. We don't know how this is going to apply in Alan Wake, but there sure is a lot of green, especially even in Mr. Door's show.
Yeah.
It's a lot of green.
So that's as far as we got with the previews before we decided to stop. Let us know in the comments what you thought and if there was anything we missed. We hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Darkling Alley, out.